All right, guys. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sean Adams. I'm an account executive here at Single Ops. And today we're going to cover a webinar, our part 2 of our COVID-19 series about how the green industry is responding to the current pandemic. And what we're going to do is just go through, we have a sort of a panelist discussion. We have a few good guests here that I'm going to get into in a second introducing. We had our CEO, Sean McCormick, actually 2 weeks ago, do part 1 of this series, where we actually interviewed companies from across the country and talked about just what their regions are experiencing and some best practices that they're employing in their business. So we had some great feedback from that, and we wanted to just continue this discussion, try to share with you some really tactical stuff from some industry experts here for you. Okay, so let's get kicked off and talk about our panelists. So I'm just going to go over like a title intro for our 4 panelists here, and then we'll have each of them go into like a 30-second just background on themselves and their expertise. So first off, we have Michelle Meyers, who is the founder and CEO of Pink Collars. We've got Jim Wertz with us, who's a 30-year veteran in the landscape space, and he does consulting here for the landscape contractors. We also have Zech, who's the founder and president of Strauser Nature's Helpers, a landscaping company in Pennsylvania. And then we have Mike Voories on the call as well, who is the COO of Brilar, and they are a commercial landscape company in Michigan. So let's start with you, Michelle. Why don't you just give us a little background on yourself and just your expertise as well.
There, thanks, Sean, for having me. I really appreciate it. My name's Michelle Meyers, and we provide remote office support nationwide for green professionals. And we work on several CRMs as well as several integration platforms. So we really lean into technology in providing excellent customer service for your business. That's us, Pink Collars.
Cool. Jim, let's have you jump in next. We'll just go down the line here.
Yes. Hi, my name's Jim Wertz. I ran a landscape company for 35 years in Pennsylvania, and over the years hired hundreds of employees. And what I do now is I do some coaching for the landscape business industry, green industry, and consulting in particularly sales and communication to help improve systems in landscape companies so they can make more revenue in their company.
Awesome. All right, Zach, I'll have you go next.
Hey, thanks, Sean. Zech Strauser from Strauser Nature's Helpers in Eastern Pennsylvania. We primarily do landscape maintenance and snow management with some landscape installation also. And been in business 22 years. And I'd say right now, my biggest focus is my leadership skills in the times that we're dealing with. So all my practice is getting to get used now, I guess, or training, we'll call it.
Very cool. And Mike, let's have you round us out.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Mike Voories. I'm with a company called Brilar. We are headquartered in Metro Detroit. We've also got branch offices in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Cleveland, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana, Des Moines, Iowa, and then we do a little bit of national work through a service partner network. We're mostly regional in the Great Lakes. We focus on landscape maintenance, so we're not doing construction, we're not doing install. We do all commercial work and we do all maintenance work.
Awesome. Well, we're honored to have you guys all here. I think we've got a good, diverse group to give us some great insights in the industry here. So let's jump into our first poll question that we'll pose for the audience here. So what we really want to understand, you should see this popping up on your screen, is what percentage of your team is remote? So for our smaller companies, are you still active out there and running from your trucks? For companies that have a full office staff, do you have some of them in the office, all of them at home? Kind of what percentage does that look like? So we'll get some results there, and Ty's going to post them as soon as we get them.
Sean, while we're waiting, I've got some interesting information that I know most of us have probably looked at. The NALP did send out some protocols last week, National Association of Landscape Professionals, and they said that any way that you could work remotely, they were really highly recommending. So I know that a lot of the industry leaders are really enforcing and encouraging companies, or encouraging is a better word, to work remotely if possible. So I'll be interested to see these results as well.
Yeah, so it looks like a pretty good explanation of what we're seeing across the board here. So about 100%, or 50% of people are 100% remote. with the rest, about a quarter of their staff is working remotely. So typically we'd see the office staff, we're hearing a lot across the industry, where they're, being able to have their meetings and join maybe a sales call or hop on to like a crew briefing of some sort in the morning. So good to see that across the industry. People are adapting technology wherever they can. So let's turn that over to our panelists here. So what we're going to do is, from your guys' perspective, we want to take top tips from working from home, like what's working for you guys. Let's go ahead and jump in with Jim. Let's start with you first. With the companies you're working with, or just someone who works through Zoom and virtually often, what are your tips from someone in that perspective?
Yeah, so right now things have changed, obviously. So the guys who are working from home and working from their office, recommendations that we talk about are, getting back to your customers, obviously, calling them all back by phone, communicating as much as possible. The concept is the more you can stay in front of your potential customers, the more you're going to close sales. It's just all about communication, showing that you remember them, because that's what people like. They like you to remember them. So sending cards out to them, asking what they can do better in their services is a great time to do that, because I think a lot of time as landscapers, we get busy running, and we don't do the follow-up. We don't get the video testimonials. We don't get the Google reviews, and we don't really dive deep into finding out what we did well and what we didn't do well. And I think a lot of business owners are afraid to ask that question because they're afraid of the answer. But you really got to get true with your customer and find out how you can improve your business, because they'll tell you, and it's great information. So now's a good time to get in touch with their customers. And then not only that, take it a step further and ask for referrals. Even now, the thing with referrals is a lot of my guys will ask for a referral, and the customer will say, yeah, I'll get you a referral. I'll do a Google review. I'll do it. Great. You did a great job. But then they never do it because they get busy. Life gets in the way. They have to go to a soccer game, whatever. So now, the business owner doesn't follow up. So it's all about the follow up. You got to ask them again. You got to ask them till you get that video testimonial. It takes 30 seconds, and they'll be the lifeblood of your business. But other things they can do from home is, basically sending letters. One idea might be it's a little more in depth, is set up a Facebook group in your local community, call it after the local name of your town, and call it something, to the effect of what you do, right? Landscape tips in the name of the town. And then get on there. I know a lot of guys don't like to do videos, but get on there and add value in that group. And it adds exposure right in your hometown. It's free from Facebook. And you just have to have, like I tell my guys, you have to get over yourself. Sometimes we don't like to do videos, but the name of the game right now, if you're sitting at home, is to get in front of your customers as much as possible. Video is a great way to do it. Zoom is free, basically. So, there's some other things also, but I don't want to, ramble on here. So hopefully that helps.
For sure. Yeah, Zach, let's jump over to you and talk from really tactically on the business owner standpoint. I imagine you guys have a full office set up there. How have you been adapting to having to work from home?
So I was kind of one of the oddballs when I talked to a few people. They're like, what do you mean you're shutting your offices down? We shut down really early. I think we're going on almost 4 weeks or something. So we shut down pretty quickly. Within 24 hours, everyone boxed up computers and got home. From that 2 week, like the first 2 weeks, we really, we had meetings from 9 o'clock every single morning that ranged from 10 and I think a couple of those days they even went to noon probably. So the first 2 weeks when we went home, we shut down even though we were considered essential, which we were fighting to get the essential when we got it. It was kind of ironic. We actually shut down when we got the essential. So when we did that, and the reason why we did that was to make sure that we could put the plans together. So for the first 2 weeks, but 8 or 9 of my managers really just focused on rolling out the cruise safely. That was our prime, and then obviously communicating with clients and getting all that. So it went pretty well, and it still is going well. I mean, there's kind of talk about, well, should one person go back to the office maybe? So we're still kind of holding to our guns on May 1st. We won't really entertain going to the office yet. We're going in weekly and shuffling payments and checks and things, mail and stuff. But overall, it's been going well, and our customers are getting on webinars with us also. We had our first HOA board meeting, and first time that every board member was actually there, because the people in Florida actually can show up to the meeting now, right? So yeah, overall it's been going well. I mean, to the extent I'm looking at bringing in a modular office that'll be half the cost and rent my office out to a dentist and downsize my office square footage. So yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Some interesting positives coming out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Mike, let's turn it over to you. I know in Michigan, you're in a different scenario there, and I enjoy all your posts on LinkedIn. And I know you've been talking about some content of how you've been getting a lot of work done at home, and how you've found this to be a really productive time. So love to hear your take on this.
Yeah, thanks. It is really productive for me. First of all, I'm introverted by nature. I'm easily distracted. So working from home for me is actually easier. I get a lot done. The downside is, we have hundreds of employees who are furloughed in Michigan right now who aren't working. But I'm working from home. Our office team's working from home. Our sales team's working from home. All that good stuff. So we've learned a lot. I mean, we've learned how to communicate digitally a little bit better. We've learned how to stay in touch without actually getting in a room and doing it. But some tips I would have for folks who are working from home, the coronavirus situation, but just in general, if you're going to work from home, routine and schedule. I think you need to have a routine and schedule. So if whatever it is, if you start working at 7 a.m., you start working at 7 a.m. Eat lunch at 12 o'clock, that type of thing. I think it gives it more of a work feel, more of a professional feel. And I think when you get a little too relaxed at home, I think that's when performance can show. This is obvious, but it's a tip I've been giving a few people. For the love of God, get a good internet connection. I've sat on a lot of meetings in the last couple of weeks where it's just you want to pull your hair out because people are dropping off and you can't hear them and that kind of stuff. So make sure you have a good internet connection if possible. Good camera, good microphone if you can. Sunshine, I've been suggesting to people to get sunshine. We don't get a lot of sun in Michigan, so when we do, it's important. I think shut your computer down for a few minutes, go outside and just stand in the sun. I think it does wonders for folks who've been cooped up inside. And then finally, the last thing I would say, and this is a huge one for me, is your environment. And this is probably different for everyone, but I think you need to set up an environment and work in an environment, even when you're at home, that puts your mind in the right place. So, if you're trying to be creative, you need to be in an environment where you can be creative. You guys can't see it now from where I'm sitting, but I have, a window to my left, a window to my right, because it keeps me happy, it keeps me from going crazy. So whatever your environment is that makes you happy, makes you content sitting still for a long time, I think it's important that you put yourself in the right environment if you are going to be stuck at home.
Yeah, great feedback. Awesome. Love that. And then I purposely left Michelle last here, being that she built a business on working virtually. So I'll let you take us home on this question.
Well, we use a lot of the tools that were mentioned. We do use Zoom to do communication, and we do all of our monthly meetings happen on Zoom. You'll notice the little wheel behind me that we give away prizes, and so we really try to integrate a lot of our culture into those monthly meetings because everyone is remote. So I have team members that work for me that I've never even met in person. I've only met them on camera. And I think that it's a really interesting, different way to work, and it's worked for us for sure. But what I see a lot of our clients utilizing currently, which I just love, is we use a communication platform called Slack, and they're creating Slack channels specifically for mobilization and logistics, which is totally new now. A lot of these safe distance practices, you need to keep people away. You can't have, 5 or 6 folks in the same truck anymore. And so for mobilization and logistics, I'm seeing the owners set up team channels based on the crews that are going out to the field, and letting those guys be able to communicate one to another on those Slack channels. And as the owner, you can really see from kind of a higher level what your entire team is doing without having to be a part of, multiple chat strings or text strings. So I really like utilizing Slack for that application, because I think mobilizing of crews, it may be impacted for a lot longer than the virus stays around for. So I think learning how to communicate in that type of way for multiple people is really, really helpful. And I'm seeing a lot of our clients be very creative in their use of Slack. So I really like that.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's really good feedback. We use that internally for our company, and there's a lot of people in the corporate world that are very familiar with that. Hasn't totally been bought in by the green industry, but definitely a really useful tool and even more powerful in times like this. So awesome. Yeah, thanks for all that, guys. That was really useful. Let's jump into our next poll question here. So we want to talk about how new business has been affected. So when we talk about that, we're really talking about the spring season. So typically in a normal year, this would be normally the busiest time of year for the average landscape or tree care customer. Breaking ground on new installation projects, starting up new contracts, storm work if you're in the tree space, whatever that might be. The spring is typically a very, very busy time. You're putting out tons and tons of proposals. So what we want to understand from the audience perspective is, has the request for proposals been increased? Are you seeing more of a demand because your homeowners are at home and they're looking at their, overgrown backyard and they're requesting services? Are you seeing a decrease because of budget limitations and other constraints? Or are you seeing, just about the same for what an average spring season? So it'd be great to kind of get some feedback on what you guys are seeing. We've seen this being very effective across different or varying in different regions across the country and across different segments as well, with the installation side being much slower because of budget constraints, and the maintenance side being much more consistent because the grass is green, growing, the shrubs, everything else needs to be trimmed and maintained. So that's something that's certainly essential in most parts of the country. So be curious to see what the results are on this one. Yeah, so it looks like almost 70% where they're seeing a decrease, which is definitely expected overall. But about a quarter of people have actually seen an increase, which is pretty surprising that we're actually seeing more demand for work. But yeah, interesting stuff. All right, let's jump in and actually see what our panelists are thinking about this. So let's go ahead and start with our landscape contractor. So Mike, I'm going to start with you. When you're looking at the spring season, new business development, new contracts, in an unprecedented time frame, how are you viewing, new sales, pipeline development right now?
Well, I don't sleep anymore. No, but so we do a lot of, we respond to RFPs and RFQs and that type of thing. But we have a target market. We have we have a unique type of client that we want to work with. We only work with commercial clients. We try to stay away from multifamily, even though we do a little bit. There's a certain size and type of client that we want. So we have a sales team, and what they do is, and that's how we get most of our business, is through proactive sales. So they're making phone calls, they're sending emails. When they were allowed out of their house, they were going to networking events, that type of thing. Referrals, a lot of referrals, especially in our Michigan market. We've been here for 4 decades, so there's a lot of people that know us that we get referrals from. We're not having as many conversations with buyers right now as we used to and as we should, but we are still able to plant a lot of seeds. We're still making those phone calls, we're still sending emails, we're still connecting with people on LinkedIn. And we might not be proposing work for them right now, but we're staying really, really busy, at least staying in front of them. We use social media. We use anything and everything, groups and associations that we belong to. The one thing I guess I've noticed is our maintenance business. I don't know that it's slowed down, but we're having a harder time connecting with our clients and finalizing some things. So our numbers are down a little bit. Where I see a big struggle is in our landscape enhancement side of the business. So mulching and flowers and replacing dead shrubs and creating a little bit of extra curb appeal in front of a Class A office building, stuff that is usually, quite frankly, much higher margin work for us. So it's kind of our baby. We're seeing a lot of people either back out of projects that they had signed just because they're scared of what's going on in the world. And then we're seeing it more so probably property managers and buyers just dragging their feet. They want to see what's going to happen. They don't feel comfortable spending the money right now. So it's up in the air. I don't think that I don't think they're not going to do the projects, but we're under a lot of stress right now because we're having a real hard time getting a handle on how much of that type of work we're going to have, just because so many people are saying, I want to work with you. I want to do this project. Let's talk again when this thing settles down. That makes it difficult to plan, but we're still pounding the pavement, pounding the phones as much as we possibly can, staying in front of our customers and our prospects as much as we can.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure that uncertainty is the hardest part because it doesn't fit very cleanly into strategic planning. So
yeah,
understandable. Yeah. Zach, let's piggyback off of that same perspective. What are you seeing and how are you approaching this?
So our landscape maintenance and snow is kind of, I would call it, in a sense, set for the year because most of your RFPs, like Mike was talking, that's coming out last fall through the winter, maybe some late liars. I mean, we just did confirm a renewal as late as yesterday, but overall, the renewals are in good situation. Now, some of our hospitality and retail, we don't do a ton of retail, but the little bit we do, they seem to be pulling back on maybe the mulch or the flowers or certain things like that. And then special projects where, we're planting, street trees or, projects, enhancements, we're seeing a holding pattern on a lot of that. So, I guess if I was to jump out front, it's where I'm personally starting to take some focus is middle of the summer. What's our approach for 21? To be honest, because I think it's not going to look great for this year. I do think if we actually had a low snow year in eastern area, northeast, so that kind of started us off on a potential lower sales year. So I think if I was to predict, we could be 20 to 30%. Behind 19 numbers to some extent. So, like Mike had said, it's really trying to make sure that we're still communicating with the customer, and that's been going well, and they're getting back, but it's a holding pattern. So it's we're going to get out and do the jobs we can. We might have had a job that we thought we were going to do in 2 months, but now that just became priority because they do want to move forward. And the people we thought we were going to do now might get pushed back till later. So I think there's going to be some of that rotation too. It's not necessarily that we lost the work and we won't do it. It just may be at a different time this year. So I wish I could. I would say on my sales team and account management team, what I'm asking them to do and what we're working on is what we call a sales collaborative within our company, being where they're having much more, focused sales team meetings where they're trying to lean on each other and work on each other's strengths and, or help them out wherever they can. So it's not just one for all, each salesperson or account manager do what they have to do. It's how can they all support each other? And I think that's really important. So, and how we're approaching business development is we need to double down, not, if you asked me 10 days ago, I thought I was going to have to retreat a bit. With those people, but then once reality hits you, you say, no, I got to double down. So I think that's the ultimate approach is you have to put twice the effort in to maybe only get half the results. So
for sure. Yeah. From both of you guys, it's great to hear. And it's a testament to your both company cultures that you guys are connecting as a team and saying, look, let's do whatever we can proactively. And the rest of the stuff we're going to, bunker down and try to be strategic about next quarter, next year, whatever that's going to look like? What do we have control over instead of just sort of curling up and complaining about the reactive stuff or the things that we can't control? So that's really great to hear.
Yeah.
So let's jump over to Michelle. From your perspective, from a landscape or tree care contractor, what are you telling your clients, or how are you supporting them in trying to fill the pipeline or just manage their sales at this point?
Well, we're seeing that the clients that we work with are all technology driven. They all have technology as one of the major forces in their business. So having that tool at the ready is incredibly important at this time. So when a new customer calls and we're able to do a takeoff or a measurement for a maintenance plan and be able to give them a price and get them in the schedule immediately, that's really where we're seeing the companies that are thriving have that technology and those tools in place. In the tree industry, we are seeing a little bit of a drop, but we're seeing a lot of tree industry folks reach out to their competitors in this time, which I think is really interesting. And they're working together to share resources. I have a couple of folks that are sharing rental equipment, sharing cranes, really collaborating on big jobs together so that they can get things done. And I see that that's maybe one of the few silver linings in this whole thing that we're all experiencing, is that there's a lot more community. And I'm also seeing a lot of the landscape maintenance folks really be lions of the industry. Like Zach said, they're doubling down on either reaching out to competitors, hiring really good crew leads at this time that maybe are working with somebody that's not as financially stable. And they're really doubling down on trying to capture the majority of their market share. And so I'm seeing a lot of really positive movement in our clients in a lot of different areas. But technology is really that one thread that connects everybody. And being able to reach out to your tree customers that may have gotten a bid in the fall and revising that bid to give them a small percentage off, now is the time to do that. And we actually get very transparent on the phone when we call these customers and do follow-ups and say, look, we're here to save jobs. And so we really want you to see if there's any way we can get this work done this week. This is really what we need. And we've been given the go-ahead from our clients to be super transparent like that. And I think because consumers want to hear that. Consumers want to help. And there's a lot of goodwill out there. And so if you really connect with the consumer and the homeowner and tell them what you're after, I think people are really going to amaze you. But technology, again, is really helpful in this time. So you got to have that as your backbone.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I keep hearing is just theme of creativity and being, just being able to adapt for what comes down the road. And the companies, in war times like this, that can be flexible are the ones that are going to succeed. So that's great to hear. Great feedback. Jim, why don't you bring us back here? Any other takeaways just based on that from the business development and sales perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Zach said, when now's the time to double down and really go hard and not sit back and wait. That'd be a big mistake. And it's a down economy like any other down economy. Being in business 35 years, I've seen a few of them. When I started my business in 1979, we were basically in a lockdown. It was back when the oil and gas embargoes were going on. So interest rates were on the average that for a couple of years were 17%. So nobody was doing anything. Nobody was buying anything. People were just lucky to hold on to their jobs. Nobody could borrow money. So it's basically a similar concept than what we have now. Very, very hard time to get into business and start. So, I agree. You double down and you go hard. That's the only thing you can do. So you can still make a lot of phone calls. You can really build that relationship up with your current customers and make multiple attempts, because everybody, even the customers, I think, want to move forward. They're scared also in a way. So, like Michelle made a good point, and a couple of my guys are doing that we talked about asking for help when you talk to your customers and say, hey, we're in a tough time. I really want to, move forward. I want to get the ball rolling, but I need your help. Like it's nothing wrong with asking for a little help, because people are people, and most people are willing to help you out if you need it. I'm not saying beg for it. I'm just saying, it's a tough time. I really appreciate your help. And it works. A couple of my guys have been doing it, and they've been turning the ball and turning the corner with people, and they're saying, okay, let's do it. Let's move forward. So keep that in mind. Technology wise, there again, like Michelle said, technology is, I'm old school and new school both. So I'm a big believer in go out and meet people, build a relationship, talk to people face to face if you can. I know right now we can't, but that's a temporary excuse, I believe. So, but it's all about building that relationship, but also technology as a backbone is really good. There's one tool out there that some of you guys may be able to use. It's called BombBomb, BOM. You can implement a video right into your email. So when a person, your customer, potential customer, opens up their email, what they see is a pic or an image of you, and then they click on it and you do a simple 15, 30-second video, not trying to sell them, just introducing yourself, saying, hey, this is me, this is what I do. I just want to say hello, and if I can help you out. And one other tip, it's a concept that I use, is don't go into a landscape job as a salesperson, go in as a consultant, go in to ask, go in to help them and show them your knowledge, how you can help them, and then they're in return gonna, want your help and eventually hire you. So
awesome. Yeah, great feedback. Thanks for sharing that, guys. Okay, so let's jump into our third section here. So what steps are we taking to ensure worker safety during this outbreak? So we want to get really practical and tactical here. We've heard some really great feedback from our last webinar, as well as some of our outreach to the networks about practical tips for having their employees drive to job sites, one person to a truck, for example, just cleaning techniques, ways they're sanitizing things after hitting gas stations, or different procedures and things that they're implementing to try to have the operational side, just safety from surfaces and disinfecting. And then, of course, we have the customer communication side where we can't actually meet with our customers. So implementing technology, which has been a thread through this entire presentation here, how we're able to get that message over to our clients and stay top of minds through digital estimates and emails and text messages and those sort of things. So this is more of a multiple choice just to kind of see where and what areas different companies are doubling down on, what things they're implementing in here. So be curious to see kind of where some overlap is in the industry. Cool, so we've got a lot of good feedback here. So obviously pretty straightforward that we're limiting face-to-face interactions with customers. And then meetings, any sort of interaction with our team members are being limited as much as possible. Allowing crews to drive to these different job sites, definitely super effective. And then just mirroring what we've talked about, just being able to have ways to accept payments and not have to deal with paper that we have to exchange where there's an issue there. And then just encouraging our employees and empowering them to be able to work remotely. So really powerful stuff. So let's actually get some even more tactical tips. We'll jump in here from the panel side. So again, I think we'll do that same order. Mike, let's have you kick it off again. How are you guys viewing safety with your teams? And if you're more shut down right now, how do you anticipate as we move forward into what will be the new business norm for the safety kind of moving forward?
Yeah, just to clarify, we're shut down in Michigan for operations. So our Detroit market and our Grand Rapids market cannot work. All those employees are sitting at home, and salespeople, managers that can work from home are doing so. But in Ohio and Indiana and in Iowa, we are actually working where we're allowed to. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, we made a great decision. We actually hired somebody to be a safety director. And in hindsight, had we not done that, I don't know that we'd have the culture in place right now to do some of the things that we're doing. But to answer the question specifically, what we've done is we've actually created a 19 or 20 page Brilar COVID-19 workplace guidelines manual. And it's not one of these manuals that we put together so that we didn't get sued, and it's not one of these manuals we put together for marketing purposes or to cover our butt or anything like that. We set out, our safety team and our human resources team worked really hard on this, and they put together this manual And it is one of the most comprehensive safety manuals you'll ever see, but it's very, very easy to understand, and it's very, very easy to follow. Not what we're used to. I mean, not even close to what we're used to, but it's easy to follow. And without taking you through the whole thing, what it is we're giving our employees guidelines on what they should do at home, which is really just sharing with them education from the CDC and that type of thing. We're sharing with them best practices on your way to work. You know, on your way to work, don't stop for coffee, don't stop for food. If you have to stop and get gas, here's what we want you to do. We want you to wear gloves. We want you to wipe down the gas pump handle, all that kind of stuff. And then I saw in the poll results you just had, there was 0 for, medical screening. We're not educated by any means to do comprehensive medical screening, but what we are doing as our employees show up is we are doing a brief screening that is within our capacity. So we're checking temperature with the little gun you shoot people in the head with. We're checking temperature. We've got a questionnaire. You know, we've actually got someone at the gate asking questions, you know, pretty elaborate list of questions. And then we've got a process and a plan in place. If someone has a fever over 100.4, we do this. If someone says, yes, I've been around someone who is coughing, we do this. And we've outlined all of this. In the trucks, you know, you gotta wear, we limited our crew size to 2 or 3. But in the truck, you got to wear a mask. In the shop, you got to wear a mask. In the yard, you got to wear a mask. Out and about, if you get out in the middle of a yard and you're cutting grass and there's no one for hundreds of yards, and you want to take your mask off a little bit, you know, we're allowing them to do that. We've outfitted trucks with cleansing wipes and water and soap to wash their hands. And I'm probably forgetting a zillion things, but we put together this program and this plan it seems overwhelming, but if we're going to continue to argue for our service to be essential, and if we're going to continue to put our people in the field, the very last thing I want to have happen is for them to get sick or make this entire virus situation worse because we acted irresponsibly. So in my belief, in my opinion, we've actually put this program together so detailed, so elaborately, and I keep saying this. I think that we can really, and this is landscapers, not just us. I think that we can operate safer and keep our people healthier than almost any other industry or profession that has been deemed essential, just because of the outdoor nature of our work. So that's the steps we're taking. It's a lot. We've put a lot of time into it, a lot of money into it, training and education. And our guys are just doing a wonderful job getting behind it.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's really great to see, and a good thing for companies to shoot for as far as where they want to take their organizations and get programs like that in place. So Zach, let's hear your feedback on this.
So our 2 weeks that we shut down was the kind of the key part of us kicking off the safety program. We call it the new safety policies, basically. And what we might end up saying is a lot of this doesn't actually even change in the future. But we use a program called, some of you may have heard of it, Trainial. It's a pretty straightforward kind of platform for training. And all our new policies, about every week, we were putting out a new set of policies. Could have been a couple pages a week. We'd always tie the old policies and kind of just stole something from Mike to think about. Maybe we're going to collaborate and get all this together and actually make it a little more cohesive together. But we have about 4 releases of safety rules and training. And then before they came back to work, they did a online training test to make sure that they retained the things that we were training them. Now, everyone else, and a couple of the key things we put together to roll them out other than policies on paper were some of the infrastructure changes where we have direct report to sites, and then we have stop and go sites. On the direct report, you can drive your vehicle there. They park in a corner. That's where we have porta-johns with sinks and washing stations. On the larger properties, the day-long visits, or in some cases, we turned a 10-person crew one-day visit into a 2 or 3 person for the whole week now. So rather than mowing a large property in one day with a big group, now we've actually taken it to 4 days or 5 days, because we, in our industry, we know that a decent amount of our frontline team cannot have licenses at times. So that was a big challenge for us, as to how do we shift these people around. So we actually had to change crew structure. And if you were on John's crew, now you're on Mike's crew, because you're a direct report, because you'd get dropped off at that property. So we're 1 person per vehicle. So I got rental vehicles in. We have a bunch of mini pickups, or a handful of mini pickups that we got to have for the stop and go crews. We needed a trail vehicle. So we actually have a trail vehicle on that crew for the stop and go properties. Obviously the cleaning materials, we got porta-johns at our shop instead of them going into the office to use the bathroom. Kind of like Mike said, the list goes on of things that we've implemented. It's pretty amazing what we've actually been able to pull off in a few weeks. What I'm finding is a potential offset. So there's like costs that we're incurring, but it almost, I'm looking at some of the production numbers just in the short period of time, and it's almost looking like we're doing better on our production numbers. It's kind of, or improved. So while we may have cost in some areas, I think because of the discipline that we're starting to create, I think we're just getting a lot of focus that we, don't always see at times. So I don't mean to ramble, but weekly updates. I do a company address for the last 3 weeks. I've done a 3 p.m. on Fridays. We have about 50 guys, and they get on the phone, and I do kind of an address on where we're at, what's important, what we need to focus on. And it's going well. I mean, it's pretty amazing what we've been able to pull off. And like Mike said, our industry, I think, is just a really good industry to be able to pull off what we're pulling off. And it's really neat to be able to see the cleanliness. We've always been like, put armor on the truck, clean the truck, make it look nice. But now we're getting a clean truck the way I wanted them, which was like wiped down like I would in my personal truck. We're wiping down everything. So I think we're getting cleanliness to this level that isn't going to change. So, and then to a personal level with the team and their hygiene. I think we're seeing a spike and increase in hygiene. So It's good.
Really interesting feedback. I appreciate you sharing that. So we got about 15 minutes left here. I want to get through one more question that we're going through here. So Jim, let's get a couple of your bullet points, and then we'll round out with Michelle on her topics on safety. Jim, let's kick it off with you first.
Yeah, so all really good points from Mike and Zach. And, I've always said when we go do estimates, I've done this for years, carry deodorant and mouthwash, when you're going to go talk to people. So it's always been my thing. But anyhow, because a lot of times we get to an estimate, we might have been out working or a little sweaty, and we don't, or, smell a little ripe some days. So, but yeah, a lot of the guys that I work with are not huge companies. They're, 5, 6, 10, 12-man crews, that type thing, much smaller, but they are practicing for the most part, the cleaning the trucks and trying to put 2 in a truck and that type thing. For them, it stresses them a little bit because they're limited on trucks and that type of thing. So it makes it, but I think, like Zech said, that you mentioned that your productivity seemed to go up, and I'm sort of seeing that same thing. And I think it's because maybe the employees that they are keeping busy are glad to have their jobs. So they're actually putting out a little bit more and being a little more appreciative of the current situation. So yeah, I feel for some of these guys because it's definitely a tough time, and things are changing. And so all good points of what you guys had mentioned.
Yeah, that's a good point with the size of the company, Shao. All right, Michelle, why don't you bring us home on this topic? I know you had some interesting feedback you're hearing as well.
Yeah, we are keeping our team safe by having them all work at home, which is really great, and then just keeping them working. I'm agreeing with both of the gentlemen before that I'm seeing a lot higher level of capacity in my team. They're asking for more work. They're eager to do other projects. They're willing to help those clients that we're supporting, and they really understand that everything that they do makes a difference. So I think that we're seeing that kind of across the board in our culture. Then I'm also seeing from our clients' perspective, I'm watching them stagger start times for anybody even picking up equipment. So they're not even having interaction between anybody that might still be in the office and the crew leads picking up trucks. So I think a staggered start time is a really smart thing, and it could be something that could be implemented on into the future. And then they're really, again, to support Zach's comment, they're really keeping those trucks incredibly clean. I've gotten a lot of really good copies of checklists on different things that they want that truck to have happen to that truck throughout the day. And the crew lead is really the leader of that safety of that vehicle. And they don't allow any of the other team members to interact with the vehicle or any of the supplies on the vehicle. And I'm seeing that checklists and kind of implementing some of these policies has been really a positive and really tightened up some of the processes out there in the field. So I'm watching those pieces of material go back and forth. We utilize a free system called Trello where we house or keep all of the information about all of the clients that we serve. And so we use Trello as sort of the repository of all those documents and information and tools and policy changes. In addition to Trainio, we use Trainio for our business, but our clients use Trello as a way to kind of hold all of that whiteboard information, we call it. And I'm seeing a lot of those new documents emerge and show up on Trello, which I think is a really positive thing. And I'm encouraged to see that those safety protocols hopefully will continue in the future. So that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, really powerful stuff. Great tips. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so we're going to skip this next poll question just to get into our time here. We're going to just jump into the panel. You guys are elaborating with some really great details. I want to make sure we give us enough time as we round out this conversation. So for our last panel question, we really want to talk about maintaining of our quality customer experience. So we really want to talk about this from the perspective of how we're managing that, what we're saying to our customers, what that activity looks like. So Michelle, why don't you kick us off this time and just talk about that customer experience, what you do for your customers, and what you may suggest as far as just keeping the quality relationship going.
Yeah. Well, in terms of nurturing those relationships, I agree with what was said before. Video is incredibly powerful. I know a lot of folks are really nervous about being on video. I admit that I'd hate being on video myself, but I'm forced to do it, and I'm grateful that it's become a necessary part of my workflow. We post videos almost daily in our Slack environment for our team to just give them an understanding of what the tempo and temperature of the company is, sort of a state of the union. And so internally, video is super important, but for your customers, I think it's even more important now. I think that the use of Facebook right now is over the charts. Everybody can attest to that customers are spending hours and hours on Facebook during the day. So that's really where your customer is living and breathing right now, is on Facebook. So please go there. I think that doing advertising right now on Facebook, it's really inexpensive, is a nice way to, again, be in front of your customer. And then having somebody there to answer the phone, answer those emails, continue to nurture that relationship is very important at this time. And we just see admin and admin support as a really integral part of that process. We have had some of our clients cut back and cut back hours, and then they've turned right around in a week or two and come right back. So we really think that continuing to nurture that relationship is very important. I have seen another thing emerge is that people are kind of going old school on their communication. And so we work with a company called SendJim, and it sends out postcards or actual greeting cards that are handwritten by a computer, of course. But you can send actual cards to your customers. So you can download your database. It's a really inexpensive tool to send a very personal message to your customer at this time. And I think receiving an old school piece of mail right now might not be a bad thing. So SendGym is one of the things that we're seeing a lot of our clients really lean into right now, and I'm really excited about that because I think it's a fun and very personal way to touch your customers during this time. You can message it however you wish.
Love that. Yeah, some creative solutions there. Good stuff. Jim, let's just get a minute of your kind of insight into customer experience right now.
Yeah, I think some of the best things business owners can be doing to connect with the customer. It's people want to hear from you. They want the communication. That's what they're looking for. The more successful business owners I know of are good at communication. And so there's a technology out there that for people who like to use video, it's called Loom, Loom. It's free. You can get on there and shoot a short message to your customer and say hello. Very effective, very quick. You can do, 20 of them in a short amount of time and get into that DOA, the daily operations, daily mode of DMO, the daily mode of operation, and do that every day. It's very effective for new sales. Like Michelle said, Facebook's powerful to shoot video messages on Facebook would be a very, very good idea. And, the other thing is too, I agree with the direct mail. I train my guys to do what I call a shock and awe package. That's put together a package of your company, lumpy package, put a magnet in there. When they receive it, they'll open it, tells about your company, 10 things every homeowner must know before they hire a professional landscaper, things like that. Just educate them. It's very effective for new sales. So yeah, there's a lot of other stuff, but.
Yeah. So Zach, let's jump in here and hear the commercial side. Jim and Michelle had some good ones on some of the residential, but how are you guys looking at that customer experience?
I'd say number one, phone calls, 2 emails, and in the emails, video and documents. We went to the level of doing a special video and PDF document that they could give to whoever's visiting their property or living on the property, whether it's an apartment complex or HOA. So it's kind of like you communicate with your property manager a lot, but how are you helping them communicate to the people on the property also? So we had a idea from one of our property managers on that, so we jumped on that and actually implemented that. We obviously meetings like this. I think so, like our social media post, we've changed kind of our tactic where, it's not a time to try to polish and advertise. I think it's more of a time for reality. We've all heard reality sells and problems sell. So really what we're doing is, like, we had a meeting yesterday about, we're going to start showcasing our problems and we're going to start showcasing solutions to them. And we're going to start talking about real world, like, one of my managers, we're doing a newscast show. Maybe some of you have seen it, but we're trying to make it look like a news show. It's called The New News. And on there, I wanted to have one of my production managers jump on it. And she's like, yeah, I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning, getting the crew schedules ready. I'm really tired. I was like, great, let's talk about that. So that's the approach we're trying to take. It's more like, I'm so tired, I have bags under my eyes, but here's what I'm really excited about, what did go well today. So down the level, we're going to be interviewing our crew leaders. And so I think that's part of the customer experience, is them seeing our challenges too, and not just, kind of paint this picture that everything's fine. So.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, great feedback. And Mike, why don't you round us out on the customer experience? What are your thoughts?
It's communication. I have realized, at least in my opinion and from my experience, that our customers are never going to appreciate and love our businesses as much as we do, and that's just reality. I mean, think of the people that you do business with. Yes, you like them. You might even be impressed with how good they are. You might even have a personal relationship. But you're never going to care about those folks' businesses as much as they do. So, and that's okay. So, I'm not a huge fan of telling our customers over and over and over again how awesome we are, what a great job we do. We've been in business since the 70s. They don't care. again, this is my opinion. I don't have any facts to back this up, but I really don't think they care. So what we do is we try to talk about them. You know, our national team, which is a very small part of what we do, this week they sent out a email to a targeted list of prospects that they're trying to sell to and some customers. And it was basically, I mean, it was on our letterhead, so call it a sales pitch if you want. But it was here's how to save some. You know, we know that budget is going to be a big deal for you right now because of this coronavirus thing. Here's some things that might help. Here's how you could save money. You could reduce these services, have this conversation with your vendors. So we offer free tips, we offer some knowledge, we offer some education without directly trying to sell. But we talk about what's important to them, because as much as it stings for business owners, they don't care about us as much as we care about our businesses, and they shouldn't. So we try to steer the conversation to about the clients. And then I know this wasn't the question, but it's kind of the same answer with our employees. We've really upped communication. We're doing twice a day Facebook Lives, which has proved to be a heck of a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. But twice, and it's voluntary, it's not mandatory, but twice a day at 8:30 in the morning and at 6:30 at night Eastern time, any employee in our company can come to our internal members-only Facebook group, and they see my pretty face, and I keep them up to date with what's going on. Here's what's happening with coronavirus. Here's what we're doing with our safety program. And they ask questions in the chat. I answer the questions if I can. And it's just keeping everybody in the loop. But talking about what's important to them, not what's important to us. Talking about when they're going to get back to work and what that's going to look like and what safety is going to look like. But at the end of the day, I think that our company and I think our industry is going to come out of this we're going to be a stronger company. Our industry is going to be stronger. We're going to be safer. How could we not be safer as much as we're having to do right now? How could we not come out a safer company? So communication is huge. Awesome.
Well, couldn't have wrapped it up better myself. Great job, everybody. I really appreciate all the feedback and you guys sharing your wisdom here. So I just want to thank the audience members, everybody joining in, and of course you panelists for carving out your busy schedules to share your insights and expertise. I think this is going to help a lot of companies. So thanks everybody for being here. As far as the recording and recap, anyone who's registered will get an email with that recording. And they can also go to this link and we'll be able to download this once we get that all published. Other than that, it's going to be a recurring series. So 2 weeks from now, we're going to have another set of panelists on that will be on April 30th for part 3 here. Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Sean.
Right. Yeah.
John.